And I am getting everything ready. And hello. Yes, I know, I'm about 5 hours early. That's because I have 2 Patreon sculpts today. And the first one is not in the US, so this would actually be a better time for him to be here and to, come with me as we sculpt his miniature. Now, he has 2 primary choices. One of them would kind of be outside my usual bailiwick, but we'll get into that when he gets here. So, let's see who all's in here. Anyone ready to speak? Yeah, it's generic cola, big K, Kroger's. Yeah. I would like to say that you can't see him yet. Now you can. Oh, no, buddy. No, buddy. I do love my baby boys and my baby girl, but no, Fuzz. Not right now. Yeah, good boy. Okay. And there he goes. Just to sit up and curl up and watch me sculpt. Okay. Now, I'm going to give him until quarter after, really. So it's about another 14 minutes. I'd like to apologize for anyone else who's not quite... about 5 hours. Right. Okay. I now have 3 people. Welcome. Now, if you're not already, there's the whole like and subscribe, blah, blah, bell, blah, blah, right down here, the usual spots. And you know what? Hey, look right here. It's a little red dragonborn. Book, book. Anyway, the 2 possible sculpts I'm going to be doing. One is something creepy and Asian. And 2 is a catbird. The catbird is a little bit outside my bailiwick, especially with the reference image he gave. So, it'll probably end up being the creepy Asian sculpt. Like I said, we're waiting on the person to show up. Okay, hold on just a second. Okay. Okay. So, Maximilian, you are apparently here. Say something in the chat, please. By the way, I should note there's between a 10 and 20 second lag on YouTube between when I see it in the chat here, or down here if you're watching it in bigger screen, and when I actually react. Okay. Funky Lord, is that you? Okay, excellent. Like I said, see, the problem with the catbird is Number one, feathers. Feathers are so far outside my bailiwick. I haven't even done them in my day job. So I'd be spending more time trying to do the individual feathers. Okay. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to start off. We are going to go ahead and we're going to come over here. Oh, wait. There's one thing we're going to do. Based on what you told me, I think we need to make a new prop. And I'll show you anyone else who wants to see how I do this, how I make the props. Well, first of all, I need to select this and make it kind of, vaguely human skin tone. Then I'm going to freeze her. Now, no matter where I click, I can't accidentally select her. And what we're going to make is we're going to make a set of medieval Asian scissors. Sounds odd, I know, but they use an unusual form to their scissors. Specifically, it was... Okay, now let me make it that high. Instead of being two blades that overlapped like this, it was one piece of metal that curved with the blades on the insides, so it acted like a spring. So we're going to give her some medieval style scissors to make her look even more archaic. Okay. Now we're going to drop that down a bit there. And we're going to change it to... Oh, going the wrong way. Alright. That'll do. No, that's too much of a... There we go. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these polygons. Actually, one thing I need to do before that is I need to go ahead and make this just a little bit there. Okay. Now, because of how I'm going to do this, I need to go ahead and seal these ends. As you can see right here, watch what happens when I click this button. Click. There. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these out using extrusion. Actually about here, because we don't want them quite crossing over yet, and it's going to be bigger than real scissors. Okay. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to change this to be kind of a blue color just for make it easier to distinguish from the female figure. Now what we're going to do is we're going to delete, actually let's go ahead and delete this half because I'm going to mirror it and then deal with the crossover business. Actually no, I'm not going to mirror, okay, I know what I'm going to do. Ha! God, one of us does. Yay! Okay, now I'm going to put a new segment about there. It's let me show you where I'd put it. It's this bright red line right here, so that it's now an extra segment. I hide this, and I'm going to extrude this out. Not that far, about that far. Then I'm going to select only the top portions and bring them down. Whoops. Deselect those. There we go. So that the blade is nice and sharp. Or at least it'll print sharp. Now we take this one, or that pair. Actually, we need to go ahead and select this vertex right here and deselect the bottom. We're going to bring this down. Just so you can see the shape that we're starting to get here. Now, I'm going to take this vertex and I'm going to move it to about there and about there. Now, as we can see, the blade, which is this portion right here, will be crossing over with the other part. Now, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bring these down just a bit. We don't want it to be too sharp because it will have problems. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to duplicate by rotating it 180 degrees. And let's make sure that goes to 180. There. And we're going to drop it down just a little. Now we're going to make them all part of the same group. You can already see. Alright, that's not going to work. Okay, so what we're going to do is go ahead and delete the second one. It's too much crossed over. It's not bent enough. So we're going to unbend part of it. There's still going to be a bit of a crossover. I'm going to make sure that as much of it as possible is looking out. Okay. That should do. And then when we rotate it, actually, let's do that so I don't have to enter it in. Automatic angle snap. And now we rotate 180. There. This is pretty much what medieval Asian scissors looked like. We're going to make them a little bit longer and nastier looking after we're done here. But first we need to make sure that we get everything all in the general shape. You make the rough shapes first, then you make the finished shape. Okay, we're going to bring this down to where it's just below. Then we're going to bring this one up. We're then going to select these and invert them so that we are only selecting this side, because what we need to do is we need to give it a little bit of a gap. Just a little bit of one. Now we're going to take this, bring it down a bit, this, bring it up a bit. We're basically trying to smooth out the curve of the spring. And then this down just a little, and this up just a little. Okay, now we're going to weld all four of these vertexes here where the two parts meet. Weld. And that's 4 now. We're now going to select here. I hit loop. And then select these edges as well as these edges. And hit loop again. The reason being is because this will sharpen the edge and will make it basically look like a hard edge surface. Chamfer 0.001. Okay, now when I hit mesh smooth, nope, I need to do one more thing to them. I need to add in 2 edge loops here, so you can see it past my big fat head. Both of those need 2 edge loops. I hit connect and makes 1. I don't want 1, I want 2. And you can see that they're now spreading out. Oh. Ah! Now, zoom out, mesh smooth it once or twice. Okay, those will look like the scissors that we want. Now we're going to give them a bit of a shaping. We're going to do that with what's called an FFD box. This will give us some measure of control over what they look like. We want them to be kind of a longer blade, for example. And I can do this without causing some serious issues because of the deformation box. We also want to go ahead and make it a little bit wider. And then we're going to grab this just to make it rounder. Yeah. And here we have our basic Asian style scissors made giant for the horrific creature that we are going to be making. And hello! By the way, Kim over here, right here, will be the Patreon for later tonight when we're going to be making her Eladrin Sorceress. Okay, now one thing I need to do is I need to rotate this so that the handle of one side of the scissors is going to be in her grasp, basically. She's going to be holding on to them like they're a sword of some kind or what have you. Her pose will be as creepy as I can make it. Okay, we need to pull it back just a little bit more. Okay. And check on the hand. Kind of pull it over this way just a little. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this. You can't see the windows I'm pulling up as I'm doing this because of how XSplit captures the screen. Because I don't feel like having my entire screen visible because that's a problem of privacy. So we're going to put this under props and we're going to call it Ghost Scissors. Okay. We got that done. Now we're going out of 3D Studio Max and to Daz Studio. Now you notice I've already got the female figure loaded. I'm going to import the props Ghost Scissors. And then we're going to give it start off with a closed hand, and then we're going to use the move tool to move the scissors into the right spot. Okay. Now real quick, since this is your well, I hate to use the word critter, but that's what it is. This is your creation. This particular spirit, is it supposed to be Chinese or Japanese? Because that will significantly change the outfit she ends up wearing. Japanese. Okay. So there's quite a wide range of Japanese outfits. Do you want it more of a formal kimono? More of a peasant kimono? Do you want it to be a basically the hakama and that, or do you how do you want this handled? Because this is going to be your figure. And while you're deciding, one thing I do have to do, there's some clothing bits that actually help with sculpting later. And one of them is what I call the cleavage eraser. This is great if there's any part of the cleavage or under boob or side boob that's going to be visible. I click this, and when I sculpt, it'll be as if there's cloth between them. It'll help make it a little bit easier to make it look clothed. Also, you said you're going to be printing this at larger than your than the typical miniature scale. So the proportions of the figure as I have it right there are great for tabletop miniatures. For larger than that, we want to kind of change the proportions just a little bit. Okay, yeah, she's definitely got a much longer proportion. The style of miniature you sent me earlier was wearing Chinese clothing. So let me pull up the conversation and double check on the image, and then pulling up Maximum Bugler. Okay. Okay. The 10 Thunders, as in, like, yeah, every single one of these characters, except for Shenlong and Asami Tanaka, are wearing either Western or Chinese style clothing. Oddly enough. And Asami Tanaka is wearing a weird take on old Japanese style, where her obi becomes part of her underarm wings. Or at least it looks like it. Oh, okay. That one. So a formal kimono. Okay. So a formal kimono. Alright, that tells me a couple things. One thing we're going to do is, like I said, we need to change her proportions just a little bit because she is going to be printed larger. So we're going to select all the head parts and make them slightly smaller. We're going to do the same thing with the hands, because the hands need to be slightly smaller. We need to make sure we select all of the parts. Go to all, scale the hands slightly smaller. And actually, hold on a second, her head is at 89.4. There we go. And now her feet. Her toesies. And they need to be slightly smaller. Especially since she's going to be dressed in a formal kimono. The whole facial thing is going to be done, and the hair is going to be done in the sculpting process as opposed to this. We're also going to make her legs a little bit longer Y scale. And then we're going to be tweaking the body and etc. during the sculpting phase. Now, the pose needs to be creepy, so maybe like one of the classic theater poses where they're like this, but in the bottom hand she's got those scissors, and she's got the creepy slashy smile, the Glasgow grin. Well, yeah, but at 50 millimeter, that's still not normal human proportions. You know, a normal human would still have a bit different proportions than this. This will just look better at that higher print size. Actually, no, that head is too small for 50 millimeter. I'm going to bring it just a little bit. Okay. Yeah, that'll look better. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead. One of the things I say is never have the hips perfectly parallel to the ground. Also, because she's going to be wearing a kimono, she needs that on, because that's going to be hiding her, or it's going to be, representing the long bottom of the kimono. Alright, now what's going to happen is we're going to start with the hips. We're going to move them side to side slightly and bend forward slightly. This leg is going to kind of come. Alright, the hips bent forward 9.75, so -9. And it's coming side to side right here. This hip is going side to side like this, but it's also twisting. Now we're going to go to a front view, and we're going to check this foot. Okay, this foot needs to twist like that and bend slightly so that it's as close to flat as I can make it. And needs to untwist a little, no, twist a little bit more. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and bend this up just to get it out of the way. A bit more unnatural, just so I can hit Control D, because what you can't see is that there is a ground plane here. And I'm going to be moving this girl down so that her foot is on the ground plane. There we go. That'll enable us to pose this other leg properly. Because we can see, well, you may not be able to, you can see, might be able to see it here. There's a line that represents the ground when we're in the front. Now we're going to bend the toes up and twist them. Okay, that's good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pose the torso. The hips and the chest should never be, or the shoulders rather, should never be in the same plane. We're going to bend back a little. That would be a twist this way. A little bit of side to side. Not quite so much bend. The hips and the upper torso should never be in the same plane. Okay, so The arm would be kind of down, coming up, holding the scissors, or hold on a second. Yeah, the hips and the torso need to go the opposite direction, side to side. Although the lower body, yeah, there we go. Then we're going to lower the shoulder, the collar, this right here. And twist the arm. And then this one will come up. Twist, and it'll come forward just a little. Then we come up with the arm. We're going to twist it. Bend and twist. And bend the hand back. We still have to move the other hand. One thing we're going to do is we're going to bend these fingers backwards just a little. Side to side, a bit more on the abdomen and a bit less, a bit more. And then we're going to twist the neck side to side it a bit this way. Bend it. Then we're going to bend the head forward a little and side to side it. Actually, we need to go ahead and bend the abdomen back just a little bit more, could get it more on balance. And then she's going to have that hideous, jagged Glasgow grin. Oh, the umbrella would definitely change. It would also... My problem with the umbrella is it'd be difficult to print. It would... It's almost like putting a second base on, and there's a lot of people who have problems printing miniatures with bases. What I could do is I could go ahead and make an umbrella, a very simple one. Okay, what I'm going to do, cylinder, let's bring that radius down just a little, move it back, move it to here, make it a little bit longer. And then copy it and rotate. Bring it out. Let's rotate it back a bit more that way. And then we make it a little bit thinner. Can't make it too thin or there will be problems with printing. There. Now we're going to take them both and make them blue because we want it to be seen. We select and we're going to copy 40. Actually, okay, attach here, here, and then okay, that leaves us with 9. However, let's go ahead and attach here and here. Now, this needs to come down to here. That's at 14.368. Okay. And this needs to be at 15.581. 581. There. Now the next thing we do is we need to make the veins of the umbrella. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to make first a disc. That's about there. And we're going to pull it up to the center. And then see, that's at 15.581. This, which we're going to make easier to see, 581, 14.368. Now we're going to make it 18 sides, gap segments 2, height segments 1. But what we're going to do now is we're going to editable poly, and we're going to select these, loop, and delete them. Then we're going to select those two and invert, and drag these down until they're on par with the... I also need to kind of shrink them a little bit because they tend to... Yeah. Now we're going to select this loop, and we're going to shrink it just a little bit because it needs to have a straight angle, and we're going to bring it up. We also need to select these two vertexes and bring this one up until it looks there. Now we're going to select here, and we're going to connect twice and increase the difference between them so that they sharpen both the outer edge and the inner. And now when I hit Mesh Smooth, there we go. This is what the umbrella would look like. I would then, when it comes time to sculpt, I would kind of make the rods a bit pointy. Oh, sorry. I forgot to switch back to this. This is what I've got so far for the umbrella. It would take a bit more work than this to make the umbrella. So, what I'm going to do, bring it up a bit more. I said, I'm just concerned that it'll be difficult to print. Now, I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to select this, and one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these shafts, and I'm going to connect them with two widely separated circles. Then I'm going to deselect those and remove these, so that when it comes time to smooth them, they become a bit more rounded at the tips. Other thing I can do while I'm thinking about it is remove this second inner line on the ends. Loop. I hit Control Backspace and it removes all of those. So now when I hit Mesh Smooth, it makes them even rounder. Well, and if I unhide that, yeah. Now what I need to do is I need to go ahead and tweak two spots on the handle. First of all, I'm gonna make the handle just a little bit smaller. Then I'm going to add on one, two. It'll need to be 3 lines. So connect 2, 3. The first one will go to where it's just barely visible over top of the shaft sticks. The next 2 will go up because they will represent the little part that you push up to make them expand. Now I'm going to select those and extrude them along vertex normals. Not quite that big. You just want something that's a bit visible. I then unselect these and make this one a little bit wider because it is the cap. Select this and move it in. We're now going to sharpen all of these edges. And loop. Zing. Chamfer. 0.001. Now when I mesh smooth it, you can see that it's got both its cap and the little slidey part to make it go up. Collapse all. Now I'm going to export this, the whole thing, selected as Ghost Umbrella. Export. Done. Yay! Now we go back to DAZ Studio. I'm going to File, Import the Ghost Umbrella, and we're going to go to the right hand view so I can be moving this in position, selecting it, well, first of all, I need to bring the center of rotation to where about the hand would be. And yeah, that's about right. There. Now, rotate it back like that. I'm going to then bring it up to about there. And we're going to bring it over to here and parent it to that hand. And what the parenting does, it allows us to move the hand and it goes with it, as you can see. So what we're going to do now is we're going to slide it back just a bit because it needs to, yeah. She's kind of being a bit more coy with it rather than holding it up to protect herself. We're going to move those fingers here in just a second. And bring it over a little bit more. Now we're going to bend those fingers. And then bend okay, we also need to twist those fingers just a bit. These need to bend. And then we're going to bring the thumb out a little bit. And we're going to bring the hand down as it is. And the way we're going to do this is we're just going to grab it. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to do one thing. But it'd probably be better to go ahead and do it this way. Okay. Now, I can already see one thing I've got to do. I've got to untwist that. Not quite so much. And then we're going to do a side to side of the hand. So what do you think of this at this point in time? It's not going to so much rest on her shoulder. Making it rest on her shoulder will make it extremely difficult to get the clothing looking right, especially in the sleeve area. This is about as close as I can come because that clothing will be coming out from the body. Also, most people don't bend their arm more than that. We'd have to kind of do that. Actually, one thing I do need to do this, it does need to be bigger. The umbrella, that is. And she's going to side to side her hand a bit more than this. There we go. And that's what we currently have for her basic geometry. Well, when added in that. Okay, a bit more lower down the stick. Okay. Whoop. And turned a bit more behind her head. Again, and now we've got it. It's going to be going through her hair, so let's try and drag it a bit more that way. And bend the arm a bit more, but at this point it's going to become a little bit of an issue. Okay. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and hide the dress, the cleavage eraser, the scissors, and the umbrella. And we're just going to export her. File, export. And this is going into Patreon Minis, new. What do we want to call her? Do we want to give her a name? Or do we just want to call her the Laughing Ghost? Or it's both for the character and for the file names. It's always great if the file names can have just like a character name associated with them. Okay. What are we going to call her? Kuchisake Ona, maybe? Or at least Kuchisake? Running with scissors. I'm just going to call it Kuchisake. Kuchisake body. Now we hide the body, make the props visible. File, export Kuchisake props. Make the props invisible and make the clothing bits visible. Kuchisake clothing. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to switch from here to ZBrush. Yay! And in ZBrush, we're going to import her body. And there we have it. We've obviously got a lot of editing to do because, no, this is just raw geometry. We're going to then append that, and we're going to import in the clothing next. We're going to append another subtool and import the props over it. We're going to hide the props, and then the clothing, we're going to give it one level of subdivision. We're also going to use move topological, because one thing we want to do, this is supposed to be wearing a rather seductive variant of the kimono, so we're going to pull this down so that the cleavage is visible, at least the top of the cleavage. Then we're going back to Kuchisake's body, and we're going to break out the Wacom. Sorry about that. The Wacom. And get to reshaping things a little bit. For example, smoothing out that area, because the change of how we're handling some things caused a warp there. And we also need to move in this part of the back to make her a bit more feminine and not quite as blocky. Not a problem on a miniature, but the larger you get, the more obvious it becomes. Then coming back to here, and we're going to bring this up a bit because it's going to blend in eventually with the skin. And the next thing is the actual sculpt on the face will come at a much higher resolution. But right now what we need to do is we need to merge down with the clothing. And we're going to subdivide it a couple times. And once more. Yeah, 1.41 million. We are then going to dynamesh the whole thing at 768 and 0 blur. Dynamesh. The reason for that is so that now I can come in here, shrink the mouse, and with the smooth on full bore, blend this all together so it becomes one piece. Well, it's already one piece, but it's got these odd looking seams. By doing this, I can basically get rid of those seams. The same thing goes over here on the back of the arm. And the chest, which is very important. We need this chest to look as natural as possible underneath the kimono. Or at least look like it's being supported by the kimono. This needs to smooth. Now we frame out, and we see the basic shape. We are now going to start sculpting away on the face. Okay, so I'm going to shrink down the mouse, and I'm going to use what's called a slash tool. I'm going to open up the stroke type menu over here, turn off lazy mouse, and shrink it down to about 15. And I'm going to over exaggerate the cut between the lips and the space around the eyes. Then I'm going to make a slightly smaller divide in where the cut for the jaw will be. This side will actually have the teeth visible through the cut. This side will just have a faint amount visible. So now we zoom in, shrink the mouse even more, and I'm going to hit the smooth button. And what that's going to do, well, not smooth button, but I'm going to hit shift so that I can smooth this out. And what this will do is this will kind of sink it in. Now I'm going to use the standard tool, turn it down, lower the lazy mouse, and kind of draw it in even more. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit stronger and a little bit larger. Okay, there we go. We're going to kind of dig into the head here with this. The deeper we dig, the better, because it'll be more extreme and more hideous. Especially in here. There we go. That's about where we want it. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and once again use the slash tool. This time a little bit not quite as strong, and we're going to draw in where the muscles would be for the jaw. Then we're going to kind of dig in here. And we're going to kind of draw in where the teeth will be. And here, we're just going to go ahead and smooth this out. Then we're going back to our standard brush and digging it in a bit. Actually, we need to Yeah. Yeah, there we go. And then we're going to use the slash tool to just kind of draw on some, well, first of all, let's increase that intensity quite a bit. No. Yeah, here we go. And when we frame out, we can see where those teeth are. Okay, now we're going to go ahead. I'm thinking we need to give her a little bit more ear detail because she is larger than your typical 20 millimeter or 28 millimeter figure. So, going to come up here. I'm going to smooth out this area. Then I'm going to kind of carve in that. And then just kind of do the basic inner shape here. There. It's a little bit more ear detail. I'm going to do the same thing here. Going to kind of carve in that, and kind of, well, let me smooth out that, and add and draw on the edges of this. Then we're going to use the move topological, yay, to give it a more normal ear shape. Okay. Now, the nose. Also, while I'm thinking about it, the lower lip tends to have a slight edge to the bottom. By giving it a slash and then smoothing it slightly, we're going to give it that edge. Now, as for the nose, what we're going to do is first we're going to make a very light undercut underneath where the nose is, and follow it up along up to there, and follow it along up to there, and we're going to smooth it just a little. And then we're going to re-emphasize the bottom and back of the nostril and dig in there. Oh no, not there. And then use inflate, that's what we'll do, and shrink it and use Alt kind of open up where the nostrils are and smooth it just a bit. Just to make it look... No. And now we need to go ahead and draw on a better septum. And use move topological. I'm just kind of going to bring this out just a little bit. Smooth it just a little. And then inflate here. Okay, we're gonna smooth the whole thing quite a bit just to make it more even and more natural looking. And down here, and then we're going to move the whole lot of it because that nose is too far up for a larger scale figure. So bring it down. And then we're going to use slash, but with a very low intensity and a very large draw. We're going to redefine where the laugh lines are. And I think that's pretty much good for what we can do for the face for right now. Okay, so next up we're going to go ahead and deal with her kimono. Now, one thing I've got to do before I do that is I'm going to do something that looks like it's going to be not cool. But I got to do it, so I got to grab this and I got to kind of drag it in. And I got to do the same thing up here. Gonna drag this all down a bit because she's wearing an off-the-shoulder kimono. So now it's time to do the seams of her clothing, where they go off of the character. Alright. That's a bit too wide, but we're going to start here. No, we're going to start here and come straight up. Alright. Okay, kimono goes left over right no matter what. So I'm going to start off with this. I'm going to bring it down and kind of just bloop a bit, because we're going to end up having to blend this in as it is. Okay, and we're going to extract that. Accept. Draw, and then so that we don't have a copy, draw. Then we're going to start down here. Because this will blend into the OB. Okay. Meanwhile, we're going to start with this. Before we extract the next one, we're going to dynamesh it at 256. We're going to... No, we're not going to... Now we're going back to her, and we're going to extract it. Accept. Draw. Draw. And here, what we're going to do is we're going to dynamesh it. 256. Then we're going back to the inner one, and using the move topological tool and a good bit more size, we're going to kind of pull it. Whoop! I forgot. I need to bring it in. Okay, now we're going to hide the outer one, and we're now going to blend this in, because this will get smoothed into the actual body here in just a moment. We are not going to do it to the other part, because this is... Alright. Now we're going to make it a little bit bigger, just to pull it into the body where it's supposed to be. Now we make the other one big enough, and we're going to merge down with it. And here we're going to go ahead and mesh smooth it a couple times and then dynamesh it, because what we want to do is we want this to be one piece, so that we can properly mesh smooth the bottom of it and blend it into the body. Now I'm pretty sure that the OB will go down a lot lower than what I currently have planned, so let's get down to about here. As you can see, she still's got some cleavage visible. And now we're going to blend it just a little bit more here. Now we're going to start, well, make it bigger and blend it into the body. And the same thing with the back part. We're going to pull it down and blend it in. Okay. You get some soda. And we're going to subdivide it a couple times. And then blend down, or merge down, and Dynamesh. Now we're going to smooth where it meets. So this way, again, it's one piece. No visible seams except where we want them. We're then going to use a slash tool, a higher slash and a smaller mouse, and we're going to dig in here just to make it clear. Oh, no, that didn't work. So, going to make it a little bit stronger and follow it here. We're going to make further seams as we go, but we're going to try and get it as straight upright as possible on the waist. Turn to an angle like that. Zoom in. And we're going to select her lower torso. This will help accentuate the angles of the torso. We are going to use masking. We're going to grow the mask a little bit and sharpen it. Grow it once more and sharpen. Now we're going to extract. Accept. Draw. Draw. And we are going to go ahead and Dynamesh it at 256. But then what we're going to do is we're going to make the mouse a lot bigger, and we're going to use Move Topological to kind of drag it up. Well, a lot bigger, I said. Drag it up to where the bottom of that seam is. Add in the bottom of the kimono later. And hello, Andrea. This is a Japanese style ghost that I am making for Maximilian there, and it's already taken me a lot longer than I expected. Oh well. Alright, the next thing is the knot of the OB. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to hide the OB. And I'm not going to hide it. I'm going to shrink the mouse. I'm going to just draw on a large selection area. Bring up the OB. Shrink the selection area, and Control Alt lets me erase the area that I am drawing over from the mask. Whatever is masked is what will become the knot of the OB. I then hide it again, and I straighten up my cut. I'm now going to extract it, but I'm going to extract it without the double. Except what that does, I now use deformation to go backwards, offset Z. Now I'm going to dynamesh it and expand it and inflate it a bit. I'm also going to use this to smooth out this, make it a little bit flatter on the base. Okay. Deformation, inflate just a little bit, make it just a little bit, yeah. Then geometry, subdivide it a couple times just because I want, now make it large and grab and bring over a bit. I'm also going to bring this down a bit. This out, kind of straighten it a bit. Then let's angle it to there, turn it to there. Let's hide the body so I don't do that again. And now we're going back and we're going to extract it yet again. Now let's extract it at 0.015. Yeah, there we go. And draw that. And then for this, we're going to dynamesh it at 128. The lower the number on the dynamesh, the softer the result. So now we have our basic OB. I just need to subdivide the belt itself. This is all before we do any of the clothing sculpting. Now, one last thing we're going to do for the clothing. Oh, let's go ahead and blend all of the, or merge down the belts into each other. Okay, so all of the OB is one piece now. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make the last of this seam. So we're going to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. And we're going to see here, we're gonna use transparency to erase the top of this. Okay. Now we're going to extract, accept, turn off transparency, and we're going to dynamesh this at 256. Then we're going to smooth this out. We're also going to go ahead and we're going to smooth out where the feet are in the main one, because Asian ghosts don't have feet. So those feet are going to end up blending into the base. For all intents and purposes, it will look like it's got just, drifting into the base. And let's subdivide this a couple times. Merge down. And dynamesh. Okay, I see a problem here. Alright. Yeah, I see what I did there. Okay, so what I got to do is I've got to extract it, and remember to turn double back on. Extract, accept, draw, draw, and we're going to dynamesh this at 256. Make the body visible so I can see what I'm doing, and then smooth down the edge. I'll blend the feet later. Now merge down and dynamesh. Dynamesh. There we go. And we get rid of this seam. And make the OB visible. Now go to standard brush, and I'm just going to use this to kind of bring up, oh, too strong, kind of bring up the bottom, or no, still too strong, bring up the bottom here in between. And then smooth it out. Yeah, there we go. We are also going to be putting a good bit of wrinkles onto this, because, silk wrinkles. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to add in, well, first I see some problems here we're going to need to correct. Okay, we need to do the sleeves next. And so we're going to draw on. It's only going to be to the elbow, because really and truly Anything more than that would cause issues. You'll notice we also have a problem here. I need to erase that little dot. Now we're going to have something similar over here when it comes time. Okay. One thing about kimono sleeves that a lot of Westerners don't realize is that those sleeves are square. They're not conical like or tubular like Western. Not only are the sleeves square, they'll come in close to the body, then drop down, and both this side and this side of the larger part of the sleeves, excuse me, is actually open. Knowing what the actual garment looks like makes it a lot easier when faking it. Because that's what we're really doing. We're faking it. Okay, frame out. Now, let's go ahead and extract. Accept. Draw. Draw. Now, before we do anything else, what's going to happen with these? We've got to dynamesh them at 256. And we're going to hide the body. Yeah, hide the body. And the belt. Because what we're going to do is we're going to make the bottoms of the sleeve. Actually, before I do that, yeah, that's what I gotta do. Brush auto masking. Make it bigger. Yeah, here we go. And then the backs. We're going to do the backs also. Okay, and we're going to extract, we're going to make the body visible again so we can see where these are going to go. And we're going to extract it, accept, draw, draw. But these, after we dynamesh them, we're going to use the Move Topological tool. Now, a lot bigger brush. We're going to kind of drag them down. Too much. This is going to be the bottom of our sleeves. And then we're going to use inflate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's shrink it down a bit. And inflate the inside. There. We're going to now move that over. We're going to further detail these in just a bit. But right now, yeah. Now we're going back to move topological, make this big. And pull it out. Pull it up because it's going behind the hips. And let's go to inflate. And then move topological again. The reason I use move topological is just in case there's further bits and pieces I don't accidentally bib and bob them. If you know what I'm trying to say, which you probably don't because I just kind of miffed that up. Okay. Now we're going to merge these down. We're going to up the geometry quite a bit. Delete lower and Dynamesh again. Now we're going to smooth out the seams and smooth it in with the actual arms. And what this will do is this will let us make these into the actual ends of the sleeves. We'll be refining the shape in just a second. But you see what I'm saying? By doing this, these sleeves become the sleeves. Now I'm going to use /add and a small number, well, relatively, and a large amount, a large size, to sharpen the ends of the kimono sleeves. There we go. And then kind of blend that in. Now we're going to come back up this side. And up here. Okay. And we have our kimono sleeves. Now we're going to subdivide them a couple times until they're smooth. Merge down. And Dynamesh. Now we're going to smooth over where they meet the rest of the sleeve. Most of the rest of this, now that we've gotten that done, we'll be adding in wrinkles and other clothing details. But before we do that, there's one last thing on the hands we gotta do. We gotta make the hands look good, which in this case pretty much means the pinkies and the thumbs. And I gotta get a sip of soda. Now we're going to first with the move topological. Yes, I know, but it's I'm going to kind of bring the thumb over a little bit against the scissors, make it a bit more obvious. Grab the thumb, bring it down a bit more. And then inflate just a little bit under the thumb. We want to kind of blend in with the... Now we're going to blend in here and blend underneath. And that hand's pretty much done except for a little bit of... just a little bit on the backs of the knuckles. Unlike the male hands, the female hands, number one, tend not to have knuckles as dramatically messed up. Number two, they tend to have softer knuckles. The exception to this, as you can see, is the pinky. So we're going to blend that, inflate that. And the thumb just needs a little bit more of a basing. And just smooth that. We still need to make her hair, but for the most part her clothing is there, it just needs the wrinkles. And then we need to make a base. I've been sculpting miniature sculpts for about 5 months, but I've been using ZBrush since about 2006. So ZBrush Core will suffice for these purposes. It has pretty much all of the tools that I've been using. Most of the tools it doesn't have are texture mapping, and it does not have certain specific tools that are dedicated for going straight from here to 3D printer. I don't do that because I use a different program to double check on my scales. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to double check on geisha hair, just to make sure I get the hairstyle correct. Okay. Because it's a very unique hairstyle, and she may not be a geisha, but it would be a similar style. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw on the basics on where her hair is. There will actually be a couple layers to this hair, but this is just the first one. No, it's off center. Okay. And we're also going to go ahead and on this layer add that, which I could, you know. Now we're going to extract this at 0.4. Draw. And we're now going to go ahead and dynamesh it at oh, I gotta select it. Dynamesh it at 128. No. Dynamesh it at 256. Yeah. Now I'm going to use the, actually, I'm going to smooth out this side, and then this side, and then this side. Then I'm going to use the slash tool, and I'm going to make sure to separate these much more severely than they are. And then it's going to be move topological here. There we go. Now let's one, two, three, four. Let's do this. Okay, yeah, it takes quite a bit to get things actually looking the way you want them in certain hairstyles because they're so unique. And it's in some ways so counter to how hair grows and collects, which is kind of the point for some of these hairstyles. It shows that you had a lot of money to spend to get the style done. Okay. Now this, we're going to blur completely. We're going to drop this down to 0 or no subdivision. Then we select those only. We go to masking, invert, and we go to deformation and inflate. Then we smooth it out. Actually, we smooth it out quite a bit more just to kind of shrink it, but only on the sides. Once we had the basic shape of this hairstyle, then okay, and move. Alright, good. Expand it to really big, so I can move this out, kind of back. Unmask. And now we're going back to our human subtool and shrinking this back down again. Hiding this. Well, actually, no, we don't need to hide it. We just need to go into transparency. Okay. Shrink. And we're going to draw on where the rest of the hair is. Hide that, and now we can kind of refine the line. And then we're going to extract it, but at 0.02. And now geometry Dynamesh at 128. Smooth brush on the edges, just gently. Actually, inflate first. And then smooth. And we're going to subdivide it a couple times until it's all soft and unfaceted. And we're going to do the same thing here. And we're going to merge it in. Then we're going to Dynamesh it at 250 at 512. Then we're going to subdivide it once. Okay. Yeah. My library of figures and objects. Figures, really, there's only the male and female. There's a couple others that are things, but the objects, I've been slowly adding to them since I started this. Now, I have one small problem. I've got to take a very brief bio break. I've been sitting here for 2 hours, longer than that, and I've had a lot of soda. So, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. That was unavoidable. Alright, now, are you still here, Maximilian? Because I have some questions for you real quick. Okay. Anyone? Maximilian? Aha, okay. All I have left to do technically is I have to make the wrinkles and the hair and the detailing of the hair. So the next question is, what sort of base do you want her to be on, and what size base do you want her to be on? Assuming that she's currently closer to 40 millimeters than 50. I mean, the bases, basically, these are the bases. I'm assuming this top one, the flat base, because that'd really be easier to slice off the base and put it on one that you're going to be using. But I mean, we got the, all of these different, you got your diamond plate, cobblestone, fancy tile, and flat. Then down here, you have your rocky, your wooden planks, your grass, and your techno panels, which I don't think would be appropriate for a Japanese ghostly entity. Well, okay, sorry about that. Grab the flat one. Okay. Blurk. Back to here. Well, before we do the flat one, let's go ahead and do the hair. So we're going to use the slash brush for most of this. We're going to do an occasional use of the slash add. Let's drop this down in size. I'm just going to draw on your basic shapes. Because see, what's going to happen, there's two ways that people paint hair. Almost always. It's one of two ways. They're either going to give it a wash, or they're going to dry brush it. And so the way I do it works well with either one. Okay. With the sharp digging that I'm doing here, it creates a lot of grooves for a wash to settle into. Then I go back over and sharpen some areas with a ridge that picks up dry brushing well. And then here, here, and here. The wrinkles because this is a heavy, flowy silk thing, it will not be my usual wrinkle style. And here, 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 and here. Now, the next thing is we're going to go ahead and draw on. Actually, we need to make these bigger for this. I did not put the chopsticks or things like that in her hair because they will not print. Okay, now we shrink it down and give it a couple more lines in this. And make it a little bit more powerful. Okay, there we go. Now it's wrinkle time. Alright, meanwhile, before we do the wrinkle time, let's go ahead and add on the base. And deformation, slide it over a little bit and slide it down. And just be over just a little bit more. Yep, the only thing left is the wrinkles in the cloth, and then she'll be ready and done. As she has her Yep. Okay, one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to do the belt. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it sharper edged wrinkles than I normally would do, simply because it's silk. Alright, and we're going to make it deeper underneath. We cut underneath the wrinkle because wrinkles are actually folds that just got out of hand or refuse to give up. And by cutting underneath it, we're sharpening that edge. We're sharpening the wrinkles and making them look more erratic, more classical wrinkles. Oh, that one got out of control. And then I'm going to kind of dig in here. And up here. Now let's kind of come. Okay. The OB is wrinkled. Now we're going to go ahead and cut in a seam here. Oh. Yeah, here we go. One. This is to point out where the trim of the kimono is. It kind of digs in deep, but it almost has to. It'll print better that way. Okay, and then we come in from under here. No. Let's go ahead and turn on Lazy Mouse. Make it a little bit deeper. There we go. That's the trim. Now we're turning Lazy Mouse back off, and we're going back to 11. Let's make it 9 because we're going to be a lot larger now. And we're going to start off with wrinkles. Whoop. We're going to start off with wrinkles coming from the top. Oh. Okay, let's bring it back over. And then we're going to use the sub to kind of dig in. between these wrinkles just to kind of emphasize them. You can see it's already looking decent. And this also has the same effect on a paint job. It acts as a groove for the wash to sink into, and as a ridge for the dry brush to rub across. Now the only thing left is the leg wrinkles. Leg wrinkles, we're going to start with something a little bit stronger. We're actually going to make them with this. I'm going to then smooth over quite a bit. Smooth over it quite a bit, I said. And we're going back to slash. Now on these wrinkles, we're going to add our sharp edge on the bottom third. We're also going to add in a few more up here. And here we go. Most wrinkles tend to be straight lines. There are a few exceptions. And now we're going to Z-sub. Okay, and that looks like it's pretty much done. Ugh. Well, let me untangle my tablet from the headphone. There we go. Yeah. So, that is what we have done in the past 2.5 hours. Well, just under. So now it's the technical side of things. We merge everything down to one tool. And we go back to geometry. And I'm going to dynamesh it at 1024 instead of 768. Now, 2.545 million polygons. It's one single solid surface, but it's 2.572 million polygons. Sorry. So we need to decimate that. Decimation Master under Z plugin. And I'm thinking 50 kilopolygon, 50,000 points, 50,000 points, 100,000 triangles will be good. So I click Custom. And get some more soda. Starts off analyzing the mesh and then processing. I do like how my default eyes tend to look like the art style of a lot of medieval Asian and Chinese art. So we don't have to worry about that on this character. If you're going to paint her corporeally, as in instead of painting her to look like a ghost, if you're going to paint her like a person, I'd recommend a black eye socket instead of just a shaded eye socket, just to give it that creepier edge. And it looks like and reordering vertexes. Excellent. I'll have this done in just a moment. Writing file to disk. And the end result of the decimation and the sculpting and all of that is 100,067 triangles. And like I said, you can zoom in and you can see that it's not as smooth as it was, but you're only going to notice that when you zoom in. It's still got the teeth and the gritty area back there. It's still got all the other details. I mean, you can see that, you can recognize it now, that's teeth. So we're just going to take this and I'm going to export it back to my Patreon folder as simply as Kuchisake figure. Now, by the end of the day, I will have this model in both OBJ format and STL format sent to you. I won't have it immediately. And until next week, only you and I will have these files. Okay? Like I said, it'll probably be about the same time I send the files to Kim for her figure later tonight. You are welcome. Alright. Now, considering that I now have 2.5 hours before Kim's appointment, and I want to get at least a little bit of a nap in there, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to come back to here. And I'm going to go ahead and be logging off. Right after I log off, I'll take last Sunday's sculpt and put it up in the file vault for those of you who are patrons. And, you know, don't forget the whole like, subscribe, bell icon thing. The bell icon's kind of important with me simply because a lot of people don't seem to keep up with when I do these. And for sculpts like this one, where it's in the afternoon, out of my usual schedule to be able to compensate for someone in Europe. I assume you're in Europe there, Funky Lord? Then, if you don't know what's happening, you don't know what's happening. So anyway, I'm going to go hold my hand up. I'm going to count down from 5 to 1. This is to deal with lag. When I see my hand get to 1, then I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. Alright? So, thank you, Andy. And See y'all in just a little bit. That'll be 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. Bye-bye.